Hey everyone, in this video we're going to be looking at Chapter 5 of the Mythical Man-Month by Fred Brooks, which is called The Second System Effect. In the last video, we talked about the separation of design and execution responsibilities between architects and implementers as being an important aspect of creating large-scale systems with conceptual integrity. A question arises from that, which is, if the roles are separated, what will keep the architect from getting too enthusiastic about what will go into the product, or from designing things that can't be realistically executed? Communication between the two is obviously important, but we'll get more into the weeds on what that entails. One of the biggest ways in which an implementer can keep an architect in check is by giving estimates of how much time and resources will be required to bring a given feature into existence. If a feature seems to be too expansive or expensive to create, this would be the point to push back on, and the architect in turn should push back as well by suggesting simpler implementations or cutting back on aspects of the various features. That said, execution is the purview of the implementer, and the architect should be wary of dictating on that level of granularity with too much forcefulness. The balance is essentially this, that the architect may suggest implementation, but will offer them privately and away from the rest of the team, and that he will be willing to accept a rejection from the implementer as the execution still remains outside of his realm. Now, we come to the concept this chapter is named after, which the author calls a second system effect, and what that essentially means is that as an architect is advancing in experience, the first system design will be carefully done and without too many ancillary features, as the lack of experience is top of mind. After designing several systems, she will have experience to draw upon, and designs will be naturally more refined as she has already seen what does and doesn't work. But there's an interesting phenomenon that arises on the second system which is designed. It's dangerous, the author says, because some experience is there, and so some confidence is there, and so the temptation to overreach accompanies it as well. The author cites several examples of instances where groups of architects fell into this trap, but most of them are obsolete several decades later in 2019 and wouldn't be a worthwhile use of our time to go into. Having said that, the chapter wraps up acknowledging that inevitably every architect has to have a second system at some point. We all start at zero, yet the author suggests, naively in my opinion, that architects only be hired if they have at least 2 projects of experience. But perhaps better than that, architects should be aware that this phenomenon exists and do their best to avoid letting pride come too early in their designing careers. That's all for this video. I hope you found it thought-provoking and helpful, and I'll see you all in the next one.